years ago, my girlfriend and I decided to hike up near her parents' place in Oregon when we went to visit them for a week. We decided to bring camping gear with us and stay the night. I had only been camping once before, and it was in the Boy Scouts, so it had been a long time. My girlfriend grew up camping and knows her way around that area very well. So myself, her, and her parents' dog Bear, a huge Newfoundland lab mix, head up the trail. We saw a few people out during the day, mostly hikers. So a little after 6, we made camp. We set up our tent and pulled out our food. We had decided to buy big sub sandwiches, stuffed for s'mores, chips, and a few beers. I get a fire going, and my girlfriend pulled out her guitar after we finished eating. So far, it had been a great, relaxing night. We started winding down and getting ready to head to bed. She was in the tent getting dressed for bed, while I put out the fire. Suddenly, Bear growls this low, menacing growl I've never heard from him before. I pet him and looked around and figure it's just an animal or something. We get to sleep, and around 1, I wake up to my girlfriend shaking me, and she looks terrified. I hear Bear growling beside us, and she holds her finger up, talking low. She tells me that she woke up to voices. I listen and hear what sounds like 2 men talking. Then we hear something absolutely terrifying. One of them says to his friend, "I'll take the girl, you get rid of the guy." At that point, I knew we were screwed. We had no weapons of any sort. My girlfriend unzips the tent and Bear rockets out. I've never seen him move that fast in my life. I hear one of the guys yell in fear, and I hear Bear snarling and growling, and I hear them running. My girlfriend pulls out the phone her dad insisted she carry and calls him. He calls law enforcement. We stay in the tent as instructed. Bear comes back out of breath. No sign of the guys, and we wait for the ranger. When they show up, they find no sign of the guys, save for the truck tire tracks and some cigarette butts. They ended up giving us a ride back down to our car, and later that day, Bear got a steak and plenty of love. If we hadn't brought Bear with us that night, who knows what would have happened to me and my girlfriend. All I know is, I hope I never come across those people. Ever again. Back in 2011, I was within a circle of friends that made it a tradition to go camping in a certain spot every May-long weekend. The spot we chose was in a beautiful area right on the edge of a large lake and was located on government land. The lake itself had a dam on it, so during May-long, the water levels were always low, if not completely empty, making it possible to walk across it. People were allowed to camp there as long as they weren't causing trouble or making a mess, and it was generally a good time for everyone. The spots themselves were spaced far enough apart that you had your own privacy, but not far enough that you couldn't meet other people. In this particular year, our spot was in the middle of a small hill, with one campsite below us and one above us. The first night of our trip happened without incident. music had gotten even louder, so our friend Ben went and asked them to turn it down. He was promptly punched in the face, and he came back to inform us that he was 90% sure they were all on drugs. After that, the vibe wasn't as relaxed, and we were all somewhat on edge. I was feeling really tired, so I just decided to go to bed. Some of my friends were still awake, including Ben and one couple, Lily and Derek, that were visiting another campsite we had made friends with that day. I could hear that the campsite below was still blasting their music and partying pretty hard, but I just tried to ignore it and go to sleep. I don't know what time it was when I jolted awake. Parts of this are somewhat of a blur. All I know is that I sat straight up as soon as I heard the screaming and yelling coming from outside my tent. I quickly ran outside to find our campsite in chaos. One of my friends was clutching their chest. People were running around and screaming to call 911. I was quickly informed of what happened. Apparently, not long after I had gone to bed, the people camping at the site below us decided they weren't finished talking to Ben. And on their way up, they had encountered Lily and Derek walking back. Now Derek and Ben are about the same height and have the same hair color, so they must have assumed that Derek was Ben, and they hit him and Lily over the head with a glass bottle full of alcohol. I don't know if it was the same guys that showed up at our campsite, but I was told that everyone else was sitting around the fire when 2 or 3 huge guys appeared from the darkness and walked over to them. One had a paring knife and the other had a butcher's knife in their hands. Saw the knives and had gotten up to talk to them, and had barely spoken a word when the guy with the paring knife stabbed him once in the chest. At the same time, some of the people from the campsite above had seen the guys coming and came down to help. One of the guys, Tim, was coming down the hill when the guy with the butcher's knife ran up to him and stabbed him in the stomach. From there, sheer panic ensued. People called 911, but the ambulance was over a half an hour away. This is when I came out of the tent. Tim's wound was bleeding profusely, and he was losing blood way too quickly. His friends ended up putting him in the back of his car and speeding off to meet the ambulance halfway. Ben was also bleeding, but his wound wasn't as deep as Tim's, and we were able to keep him calm until an ambulance arrived. The guys with the knives ran off into the darkness, back down to their campsite, and took off in their Land Rover. My boyfriend at the time and I had gotten into his car and drove to the entrance and tried to flag down the policemen on their way to the scene. Once they arrived, we were informed to stay in the car, as they had released a canine search unit to hunt down the people who stabbed our friends. By the end of the night, they had arrested the men. They had tried to flee by driving their vehicle across the lake bed, where they got stuck in a muddy section of the lake. They were on a concoction of several drugs, as suspected. Luckily, both Tim and Ben survived. Although Tim had lost a lot of blood,